They say that history repeats itself, and I believe that's true. Well, here we say that hot mess history repeats itself, and that's why we are here today. At the time of this recording, it was a week ago that Nigerian male Christian Obumseli was stabbed to death by his girlfriend, Courtney Clenney, who used the name Courtney Tailor to sell her goods online as an OnlyFans content creator, or a model without any fashions, if you catch my drift. That happened on April 3rd, 2022. And this week in 1953, Jet magazine reported on a similar story. The story was not accompanied by any photos, so I will just show you photos of the couple from this year, 2022. It is worth mentioning that in the 1950s, it was typical for Jet magazine to run their stories about 2 weeks after incidents occurred. The writing and vetting processes took longer in those days for obvious reasons. That being said, this week's hot mess history story comes from this issue of Jet magazine, dated April 16th, 1953. So it is highly likely that this occurred sometime close to April 3rd as well. Let's get into it. But first, if you like these videos about the most scandalous people from yesteryear that make the hot mess history with Ty Said What Ty Said channel a time capsule for the culture, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can know every time that I upload one of these videos or every time that I live stream, and comment "I subscribed" in the comment section so that I can say hello to you. Now, on to why you are here. This issue of Jet magazine, dated April 16th, 1953, printed this story in its Mr. and Mrs. section, and it has a headline that is eerily similar to a story that has been making the rounds in news and social media this week. The article is titled, "White Woman Stabs Negro Lover to Death," and it reads, Mrs. Connie Van Zyl, 38-year-old Detroit white woman, stabbed to death her Negro lover, 39-year-old Augustus Jackson, after he sat on the side of her bed, handed her a knife, and dared her to stab him, police reported. The woman was quoted by police as saying Jackson tried to force his attention upon her, but she refused, saying, quote, "I'll die first before I go to bed with you today," end quote. Police quoted witnesses as saying the woman and Jackson had been intimate for approximately 3 years. That is the end of the story. Now, this is one of those ordinary people Jet magazine stories for which I didn't see any subsequent stories in major news outlets. So, I can only offer commentary at this point. The woman in this story is Mrs. Connie Van Zyl. So either she is married or there is a slight chance that she is widowed. It's kind of unlikely that she is a widow because of her age, but anything is possible. I lean more towards the idea of her being married, not only because of her age, but also because I couldn't easily find any other stories about this situation. It makes sense to me that even if the dominant society wouldn't have deemed her worthy of respect for cheating on her husband with a black man, her white husband would have been deemed worthy of that respect, and possibly on the strength of his reputation, this story could have been swept under the rug. It's all conjecture, but it's what we have based on this little paragraph. Now, the other reason that this story didn't get a lot of press could be that not many people cared. After all, he did give the woman the knife, if we are to believe this story, which is based on the police report. Granted, it may or may not be true, but again, this story is all that we have. So, if Augustus told this woman to stab him, I guess that there was no need for the NAACP or anyone else to put on their marching boots to go and protest the murder of someone who reportedly asked to be stabbed. I, for one, would have stayed in the comfort of my home and watched I Love Lucy, rather than have gone out to protest on behalf of this jackanini. That being said, might Mrs. Connie Van Zyl have been lying? Probably. Remember her quote, "I'll die first before I go to bed with you." Today. I don't know what made that day different from the other days. Recall, Witnesses said that the two had been intimate for 3 years. But I'm not Cagney or Lacey. I don't solve crimes. I just report on old stories. Now, with this Hot Mess History Repeats Itself series, I can say that occasionally I will report on current stories, but only when I can tie them into a story from the past. Which brings me back to the story from this week, the hot mess history that repeated itself. Our 1953 story certainly didn't get a lot of coverage, and there are those who are complaining that the story from this week regarding Christian Obumseli isn't getting enough attention either. I'm not one of those people. Honestly, I'm rather indifferent. I could say that he didn't deserve to die the way that he did, but I don't know if that's true. Again, history is repeating itself. We have the word of the woman who survived and some witnesses who were on the outside looking in. Now, Courtney, from this week's 2022 story, wasn't given a knife by the man whose life she ended. She says that she acted in self-defense. She doesn't need to prove anything to me. I'm not a court of law. I'm a content creator. As far as hot mess history repeating itself, there weren't any marches for Augustus Jackson in 1953, and there haven't been any for Christian Obumseli in 2022. That could change, but what won't change is my stance. If there are any marches or protests for Christian, I will be doing in 2022 what I would have been doing in 1953, watching TV. Maybe Bridgerton instead of I Love Lucy, but TV. Very briefly, I think that it is worth talking about the hot mess history that Black women have of taking up everyone's battles except for their own. I think that a lot of us who are familiar with the story from this year saw those tweets from Christian Obumseli, and partly, if not wholly based on those tweets, a lot of people have made up their minds about what they will do or will not do on behalf of Christian. For the most part, I have seen Black women taking a hands-off approach to this case, and I'm glad to see that. Black women are slowly but surely getting out of the habit of fighting for people who wouldn't, won't, didn't, or don't fight for them, or even care for them or like them. This is a battle for Christians' family to fight, and from what I can see, they are fighting it. As for the rest of you, go in peace and love who you want to love and stay alive. And remember, if you don't learn from your hot mess history, you are doomed to repeat it. Speaking of history repeating itself, there is an aspect of Black culture that I fear will always be on repeat until the end of time. It is the constant struggle of dark skin versus light skin. I published a video on that topic that you can see here. I will also leave a link to this video in the description box. If you want text notifications so that you can get a text 15 minutes before I release a video or 15 minutes before I live stream, simply send a text to 786-632-2135 to let me know that you want text, and you will get an outgoing text message 15 minutes before I have a new video release. If you have a business, product, service, YouTube channel, or social media account that you would like to promote on my channel, email me at taiwan@taisaidwhattaisaid.com to get rates for advertising on my community tab, my live streams, and or my edited videos, just like this one. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Tai Said What Tai Said channel. Please leave a thumbs up and comment so that we can get a discussion going. And share this video on all of your social media, especially your Facebook. That really helps me out a lot. And subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can know when my next video is ready for you. And if you don't like what I'm saying but you love it, feel free to hit that applaud button just below your video screen there and send me some
donations.
Yeah, baby. See you on the next video.